The factory owner saw the poor maid teaching his daughter to read and understood what love was. Richard Thompson cancelled the most important meeting of the month when he received an urgent call from home. The housekeeper had gotten hurt and needed to go to the hospital, leaving only the maid to care for his daughter Emily. It was when he came home early that he saw something that would change his life forever. Through the crack of the slightly open living room door, he watched Dorothy, the maid, sitting on the floor with 8-year-old Emily. The girl was reading aloud, word by word, with a fluency he had never witnessed before. "Very good, my princess. Now let's try this part here," Dorothy said, pointing to the book with tenderness. Richard froze. Emily could barely string syllables together at the most expensive private school in New York City, where he paid a fortune. How was she reading so well beside this simple woman? "Aunt Dorothy, can I tell you a secret?" Emily whispered, looking around to make sure they were alone. "Of course, my love, go ahead. I've known how to read for a long time. I pretend I don't at school because I want my dad to help me like you do. But he never has time." Richard's chest tightened. His daughter was pretending not to know how to read just to get his attention. "I understand, sweetheart, but why don't you tell him?" "Because he's always on the phone or traveling. He just gives me presents and says goodbye. With you, it's different. You sit with me, do funny voices when you read, hug me when I make mistakes." His daughter's words hit him like a punch to the gut. Richard leaned against the wall, trying to process what he had just heard. He had built a textile empire from scratch, worked 16 hours a day, but was losing what mattered most: his own daughter. "You know, Emily, I also had a daughter. Her name was Olivia." "Had? What happened to her?" Dorothy hesitated, her eyes filling with tears. She left 5 years ago. That's why I love spending time with you so much. You remind me of her." Richard had never known this detail about Dorothy's life. In 2 years working in his home, she had never mentioned losing a daughter. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Richard decided to enter the room as if he had just arrived. "Hi, Daddy." Emily quickly closed the book and pretended they were just chatting. "How was school today, Princess?" "Normal. I'm still learning to read. It's really hard." Richard's heart broke, seeing his daughter lie to protect his feelings. Dorothy stood up quickly, straightening her uniform. "Mr. Richard, we didn't expect you so early. I'll prepare Emily's snack." "Don't worry, Dorothy. Thank you for taking care of her." That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the conversation he had overheard. His daughter longed for his presence, and Dorothy had lost a child. Somehow they had found in each other what they needed. The next morning, Richard decided to look further into Dorothy's background. He asked the factory's HR department to bring him her complete file. What he discovered surprised him even more. Dorothy Wilson, 42, originally from Omaha, Nebraska, widowed, lived in a community in South Bronx. And there was a note that caught his attention. Exceptional references from all previous employers. Excellent with children. Richard decided to speak with her references. The first call was revealing. "Dorothy? Oh, how I miss her. She worked here for 3 years. My children cried when she left. It was like she was family," said the first employer. "Why did she leave?" "Personal reasons. She lost her daughter in an accident and needed time. When she returned, she said she wanted to work only with families who had young children. She claimed it helped heal her heart." Richard hung up the phone with a lump in his throat. Dorothy wasn't just taking care of Emily. She was healing through the little girl. Over the following days, Richard began observing more closely. He came home a little earlier each time, always making up an excuse. And every day, he discovered something new. Dorothy had turned a corner of the laundry room into a small makeshift library. There were children's books organized by age, some well-worn, others bought with her own money. "Dorothy, where did these books come from?" Richard asked one day. "Oh, Mr. Richard, I buy them at used bookstores. It's not expensive, and Emily loves them so much. If you don't want them here, I can take them away." No, no, leave them. It's just, I've never seen Emily so interested in reading. She's very smart, sir. She just needs someone with patience. Richard noticed Dorothy always deflected praise about her work with Emily, as if she didn't believe she deserved recognition. One afternoon, Richard heard laughter coming from Emily's room. He climbed the stairs quietly and peeked through the slightly open door. Dorothy was reading Beauty and the Beast, with different voices for each character. Emily was mesmerized, asking her to repeat certain parts. "Aunt Dorothy, do you think the Beast was really bad?" "No, sweetheart, I think he was sad because no one saw the good heart inside him." "Like my dad?" Richard nearly choked. What did she mean? "Why do you say that about your dad, dear?" "Because everyone at school says he's very serious and strict, but I think he's just sad because Mommy left." Dorothy hugged Emily tenderly. "Your father loves you very much. Sometimes adults don't know how to show love the right way. They think working hard is how they take care of their family. But you know how to show love. That's why I like you so much." Richard went back downstairs with misty eyes. Dorothy wasn't just teaching his daughter to read, she was teaching her about life, about him. That night, Richard made a decision. He cancelled all his meetings for the next day and decided to spend the afternoon at home. "Dad, shouldn't you be working?" Emily asked, surprised to see him arrive at 3 in the afternoon. "I thought I'd spend some time with you. What are you up to?" "Aunt Dorothy was going to help me with my homework." "How about if I help too?" Dorothy looked visibly uncomfortable. "Mr. Richard, you don't have to trouble yourself. I know you have important things to do. Nothing is more important than my daughter." Throughout the afternoon, Richard watched Dorothy's method. She had endless patience, turning every difficult word into a game, making Emily feel smart with every small progress. "How did you learn to teach like this, Dorothy?" "It was with Olivia, sir. She struggled in school, so I found ways to make reading fun." "You must have been a wonderful mother." Dorothy's eyes filled with tears. "I tried to be, Mr. Richard. I tried to be." That night, after Emily fell asleep, Richard asked Dorothy to sit with him in the kitchen. "Dorothy, I need to ask you something. You know Emily can already read, don't you?" Dorothy lowered her head. "Yes, sir. I found out in the first week. She told me she pretended not to know to get your attention." "And why didn't you tell me?" Because I saw how much she suffered from your absence. And I thought that maybe, if I helped her feel loved, one day you'd discover on your own the treasure you have at home." Richard was silent for a long moment. "Tell me about your daughter, Dorothy." "Olivia was 8 when she passed. She was a lot like Emily. Bright, affectionate, loved books. I worked 3 jobs to support the 2 of us after my husband left us. What happened to her? Pneumonia. We couldn't get medical care in time. In the neighborhood, these things happen. Since then, I only work with families who have children. It's my way of keeping Olivia alive in my heart." Richard felt a tightness in his chest. Dorothy had lost her daughter because they couldn't afford medical care, and now she dedicated her life to caring for other people's children. "Dorothy, I didn't know." "Don't worry, Mr. Richard. Taking care of Emily does me good. She's given me a new purpose. And you've given her something I couldn't: attention, love, presence." Dorothy smiled shyly. "You're a good father, Mr. Richard. You're just lost in all your work." In the days that followed, Richard began to change his routine. He came home earlier, joined in for story time, had dinner with Emily, and every day he discovered something new about his daughter. Emily loved to draw. She had a notebook full of stories she made up. She dreamed of being a teacher like Aunt Dorothy, and, to Richard's surprise, she knew a lot about the family factory. "Dad, why have you never taken me to see where you work?" "I didn't think it would be interesting for a child. But I want to know what you do. Aunt Dorothy said you help a lot of families by giving them jobs." Richard looked at Dorothy, who was preparing dinner. "She said that. She said you're a good man who works hard to take care of people." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us just starting out. Now, back to the story. That weekend, Richard had an idea. He decided to take Emily to see the factory. Dorothy could come too, since Emily always loved having her around. "Aunt Dorothy, are you coming with us?" Emily asked. "Oh, sweetheart, probably not. A factory isn't a place for a housekeeper to wander around." "Dorothy, you're part of this family, of course you can come," Richard said. During the factory tour, Richard saw everything through Emily's and Dorothy's eyes. His daughter was fascinated by the machines, the workers. She asked questions about everything. Dorothy watched with curiosity and respect. "Mr. Richard, how many families work here?" Dorothy asked. "About 200. "Wow, 200 families depend on you. That's a big responsibility." "I never thought of it that way. Olivia always said she wanted to work in a factory when she grew up. She said it was nice to make clothes that made people feel beautiful." Emily tugged Richard's hand. "Dad, can I give you an idea?" "Of course, Princess." "Why don't you make a library here at the factory? Then the workers' kids can come read while their parents work." Richard looked at Dorothy, who smiled proudly at Emily's idea. "You know what? That's a great idea." "Really? Can I help organize the books?" "Of course, and Dorothy can help us too." "Mr. Richard, I don't know anything about that." "Dorothy, you teach better than any teacher I've ever met." "Of course you do." The drive home was different. Emily chatted about all the projects she could do at the factory. Dorothy was radiant seeing the girl so excited, and Richard felt for the first time in years that he was building something more important than money. He was building memories. But on Monday, Richard got an unexpected call that would change everything. "Richard, I need to talk to you urgently," said Nancy, the housekeeper who had been injured. "Nancy, how are you feeling?" "I'm fine, but I need to tell you something about Dorothy." "What is it?" "She's been going through your important papers. I saw her at your desk." Richard felt a chill in his stomach. "Are you sure?" "Absolutely. And another thing. She's been talking a lot with Emily about money, about the factory. I think she's planning something." Richard hung up confused. It didn't make sense. Dorothy had never shown interest in money or his business. That afternoon, he decided to come home unannounced. He wanted to observe Dorothy without her knowing. He found the house silent. He went upstairs and heard voices coming from Emily's room. "Aunt Dorothy, do you think my dad would be mad if he found out?" "About what, sweetheart?" "About what we're doing in the little room." Richard moved closer to the door. "No, dear, your father will be very proud when he finds out." "But what if he thinks we were hiding it from him?" "We'll tell him everything when the time is right. It's a surprise, remember?" Richard was intrigued. What surprise was this? And what little room? He decided to go downstairs and wait. Later, when Dorothy was preparing dinner, he asked, "Dorothy, you and Emily have been very mysterious lately." "Mysterious?" "Yes, whispering, secrets. Is there something I should know?" Dorothy grew nervous. "It's nothing important, Mr. Richard." "Nancy told me you've been going through my papers." Dorothy's face paled. "Mr. Richard, I can explain." "Then explain." "It's just... Emily wanted to know more about the factory. She asked me to show her the photos you keep on your desk, that's all, I swear." "And the little room, what surprise is this?" Dorothy looked at the floor. "You'd better ask Emily." When Emily came home from school, Richard went straight to the point. "Emily, I need to know what surprise you're planning." The girl looked at Dorothy, who nodded. "Dad, come with me." Emily led him to a small storage room in the basement of the house, one Richard didn't even know existed. When she turned on the light, he was speechless. The room had been transformed into a perfect little library. Books organized by age on the shelves, colorful cushions on the floor, drawings on the walls made by Emily. "Surprise! It's our private library," Emily cheered. How did you do this?" "Aunt Dorothy brought books from her house, and I made the drawings. We wanted a special place just for reading." Richard looked closer at the walls. The drawings showed happy moments. Him, Emily, and Dorothy reading together at the factory in the park. "Emily, these drawings, they're of our family," the girl said, smiling. "Our family?" "Yes, you, me, and Aunt Dorothy. Because family isn't just who you're born with, right, Dad? Family is who cares for you, who loves you, who stays close when you need them. Richard felt his eyes welling up. Dorothy stood in the corner, watching his reaction. Dorothy, you brought your personal books here. They were for Emily, Mr. Richard. She wanted a library so badly. But these books must mean a lot to you. They meant something to Olivia. Now they have a new purpose. Richard knelt in front of Emily. Sweetheart, I need to ask you something serious. Do you really see Dorothy as family? Of course, she loves me, takes care of me, teaches me. You love her too, don't you, Dad? The question caught Richard off guard. I care very much for Dorothy. No, Dad. Love. Like you loved Mom. Richard looked at Dorothy, who was flushed with embarrassment. Emily, these things are complicated. Why are they complicated? Love is simple. It's wanting someone to be happy. Richard realized that somehow Emily had put into words something he'd been feeling but couldn't admit. Over the past few months, Dorothy had become much more than an employee. She had become essential in his and Emily's lives. But before he could process these feelings, the phone rang. Richard, it's me, Nancy. I need to tell you something urgent. What is it now, Nancy? I found out more things about Dorothy. She's not who you think she is. What do you mean? She never had a daughter, Richard. She made up that whole story to manipulate you and Emily. Richard felt his world collapse. Are you sure about this? Absolutely. I spoke to a neighbor in the community where she lives. Dorothy has always been single, never had children, and there's more. She's worked in several homes and always invents the same story to get close to families. Richard hung up the phone, trembling. Had Dorothy lied about everything? The daughter she lost, the grief, was it all a lie? Dad, are you okay? Asked Emily, noticing his expression. I'm fine, sweetheart. Go play for a bit. I need to talk to Dorothy. Richard waited for Emily to leave and turned to Dorothy. I need to ask you a question, and I want the truth. Of course, Mr. Richard. Did you really have a daughter named Olivia? Dorothy's face changed. The color drained from it. Her hands began to shake. Mr. Richard, answer me honestly. Did you have a daughter? Dorothy sat down on one of the cushions, her legs weak. Not in the way I told you. Richard felt a surge of anger rising in his chest. So you lied to me? You lied to Emily? No, it's not like that. Then explain. Dorothy began to cry. Olivia existed, Mr. Richard, but she wasn't my biological daughter. What do you mean? 5 years ago I took care of her. Her mother had died and her father disappeared. Olivia stayed with me for 8 months. I loved that girl, as if she were my own. And what happened? Child services came to take her. They said I had no legal right to her, that she was going to an adoptive family. Olivia cried, begged me not to let them take her, but I couldn't do anything. Richard sat down, trying to process the information. You never heard from her again? I found out she died 2 months later in the adoptive family's home. Pneumonia. If she had stayed with me... Dorothy, why didn't you tell the truth from the beginning? Because no one understands the love of someone who cares without being a blood mother. People think it's less real, less important, but I loved Olivia like a daughter. The pain of losing her was the same. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps those of us who are just starting out. Now continuing, Richard stayed silent for several minutes. His anger gave way to understanding. Dorothy hadn't lied about the love or the loss. She had only omitted details she knew might be misunderstood. Dorothy, look at me. She raised her tear-reddened eyes. Was the love you felt for Olivia real? It was, Mr. Richard. It was the most real thing I've ever felt in my life. And the love you feel for Emily. It's the same. It's as if she were my daughter. Richard stood up and began pacing the small library. You know, Dorothy, these last few months have been the best of my life as a father. For the first time, I saw my daughter truly happy. And it was because of you. Mr. Richard, let me finish. You may not have given birth to Olivia or Emily, but you're a mother in the deepest sense of the word. You care, protect, teach, love unconditionally. Dorothy kept crying, but now they were tears of relief. You're not going to send me away? Send you away? Dorothy, I need to confess something to you. What is it? I've fallen in love with you. Dorothy stopped crying immediately. What? Not just for what you've done for Emily, for what you've brought into our lives. You taught us how to be a real family. Mr. Richard, you can't be serious. I'm just a housekeeper. You're an amazing woman who turned my house into a home, who taught my daughter about love, kindness, and happiness in the simple things. But people will talk, let them talk. The only opinion that matters to me is Emily's, and she's already made it clear she sees you as her mother. Dorothy stood up, wiping her tears. Richard, can I call you Richard? Of course. I've fallen in love too, with you and with Emily. You gave me a new family when I thought I'd never be loved again. Richard stepped closer and took Dorothy's hands. So, what do you say we make this family official? The one Emily already recognizes? Are you proposing to me? I'm asking you to be my wife and Emily's mother officially. Dorothy threw her arms around Richard. Yes, 1,000 times yes. That's when they heard clapping from the doorway. Emily, they both shouted, quickly pulling apart. I knew it. I knew you'd get married, the little girl squealed, jumping for joy. Sweetheart, how long have you been there? Since Aunt Dorothy started crying, I got worried. And you heard everything. I heard she's not Olivia's birth mother, but she loves her just the same, like she loves me, and I love her. Richard knelt in front of Emily. And what do you think about all this? I think love is what matters, not blood. Aunt Dorothy has always been my mother in my heart. Now she'll be on paper too. The three hugged in the middle of the small library, overcome with emotion. But the happiness was short-lived. At the door, Nancy watched everything with a furious expression. I warned you, she muttered before slipping away silently. In the days that followed, Richard began planning a future with Dorothy and Emily. He decided to turn the factory library project into reality, with Dorothy in charge. Dorothy, would you be willing to run the factory library? Richard, I barely finished elementary school. But you have something more important, a calling. You know how to make children love reading. It would be a dream come true. Then it's settled, we'll start next week. But the next day, Richard received a call that would change everything again. Mr. Richard Thompson, this is Child Protective Services. We've received a report about an irregular situation involving your daughter and your housekeeper. What do you mean, irregular situation? We were informed that Dorothy Wilson has a history of inappropriate emotional involvement with children in the families she works for. We need to conduct a home visit. Richard's blood ran cold. Who made this report? I can't disclose that, but the person claims to have proof that Ms. Wilson emotionally manipulates children to keep her jobs. Richard hung up, trembling. There was only one person who could have made that report, Nancy. When he got home, he found Dorothy playing in the garden with Emily. They were laughing, completely unaware of the trouble ahead. Dorothy, I need to talk to you urgently. Did something happen? Richard told her about the call. Dorothy turned pale. Richard, are they going to take Emily? They won't take anyone, but I need to know. Has this happened to you before? Once, at a house where I worked in Pittsburgh. The lady of the house got jealous because her son grew too attached to me. She made up that I was turning the child against her. What happened? I had to leave. The boy cried so much, kept looking for me afterward. It was awful. Dorothy, swear to me you've never manipulated a child. Richard, how can you even ask that? You've seen how I am with Emily. All my love is real. I know, I'm sorry. I'm just desperate. Emily approached, sensing the tension. What's going on? Nothing serious, sweetheart, just grown-up problems. Is it about Aunt Dorothy? Does someone want to separate us? Richard and Dorothy exchanged glances. Emily, if anyone comes here asking about Dorothy, you can tell them the truth. That she makes you happy, that you're friends, that she teaches you good things. Of course, I'll tell them she's the best mom in the world. The next day, the social worker arrived, accompanied by a psychologist. Richard greeted them in the living room, nervous. "Good morning, Mr. Thompson. I'm Jennifer, the social worker, and this is Dr. Rebecca, a child psychologist. We're here to investigate the complaint." "Of course. Dorothy is in the kitchen, and my daughter is in her room." "First, we'd like to speak with Mrs. Wilson alone." Richard called Dorothy, who came in with clean hands still in her apron. "Mrs. Wilson, can you tell us about your relationship with the girl, Emily? I take care of her, play with her, teach her to read. She's a special child. And do you feel you have any kind of authority over her?" "Authority? I don't understand." "The complaint states that you've positioned yourself as a mother figure, making decisions that should be the father's. I've never made important decisions, I just look after her when Richard is at work." "Richard? You call your employer by his first name?" Dorothy flushed. "Well, our relationship has changed. We're getting married." The two women exchanged a meaningful glance. "I see. And when did this romantic relationship begin?" "A few weeks ago." "Do you think this has influenced how the child relates to you?" "No. Emily has always liked me, since the very first day." "Let's talk to the girl now." Emily entered the room holding Richard's hand. "Hi, Emily. We're Jennifer and Rebecca. We'd like to chat a bit with you about Aunt Dorothy." "She's amazing. Did you come to meet her too? We want to know what your daily life is like. We read books, play, and she teaches me things. Yesterday she taught me how to make fudge." "And your dad? Is he away often?" "He used to be. Now he stays home more because Aunt Dorothy taught me that family should stay together." The psychologist asked a few more questions, observing Emily's reactions. The girl answered everything naturally and cheerfully. "Emily, if Aunt Dorothy weren't here, would you be sad?" "Very. She's my heart, Mom. But why wouldn't she be here?" "Just a question." "And do you like it when she and your dad talk?" "Yes, they like each other, and that makes our family happy." After Emily left, the two professionals spoke privately with Richard. "Mr. Thompson, our assessment is that there's nothing inappropriate in the relationship between Mrs. Wilson and your daughter. The child shows genuine affection and no signs of manipulation." Richard sighed in relief. "But we'd like to offer guidance. Romantic relationships between employers and domestic workers can create delicate situations. We recommend formalizing your relationship as soon as possible. We plan to marry soon." "Good. As for the anonymous complaint, did you find out who made it?" "We can't reveal that, but I can say the person had personal motivations, not genuine concern for the child." After they left, Richard hugged Dorothy. "It's over, my love. It's over." "Richard, maybe I should leave the house until we're married, to avoid more trouble." "Absolutely not. You're part of this family. Whoever's causing problems should leave." Richard called Nancy for a serious talk. "Nancy, you made the complaint, didn't you?" "Richard, I just wanted to protect you and Emily. That woman is manipulative." "Nancy, you're fired. I want you out of the house today. You're making a mistake. She'll use you and then disappear. The only toxic person in this house is you. Pack your things and go." After Nancy left, the house was peaceful again. Richard, Dorothy, and Emily began planning the wedding. "Dad, can I be the flower girl?" "Of course, Princess. And can we have the party at the new library at the factory?" Richard and Dorothy laughed. "Why the factory?" "Because that's where we became a real family." 2 weeks later, Richard surprised Dorothy with an official marriage proposal. He knelt in the middle of the makeshift library they had created, with Emily as their witness. "Dorothy Wilson, will you marry me and officially become Emily's mother?" "Yes," Dorothy shouted, crying with emotion. "And you, Emily Thompson, do you accept Dorothy as your legal mother?" "Yes. Can I call her Mom now?" "You can call her whatever you like, sweetheart." The wedding was simple, held in their backyard with only a few close friends and factory workers in attendance. Emily was the proudest flower girl in the world. During the ceremony, Dorothy held Emily's hand and said, "Emily, I promise to be your mother forever. I promise to love you, protect you, and teach you everything I know. And I promise to be your daughter forever. I'll take care of you when you're old, just like you took care of me." There wasn't a dry eye in the crowd. After the wedding, Richard officially made Dorothy the coordinator of the factory library. She created a literacy program for the workers and a space for their children. "Dorothy, how are you feeling about your new role?" "Fulfilled, Richard. I never thought I could help so many people." "And the kids?" "They love it. Yesterday, little Sophie told me she wants to be a teacher when she grows up." "Just like Olivia wanted to be." "Yes, I think she'd be proud." Emily adjusted perfectly to their new life. She naturally started calling Dorothy Mom and helped at the factory library on weekends. "Mom, can I make a suggestion?" "Of course, sweetheart." "What if we started a mother-daughter book club?" "What a beautiful idea. Let's talk to your dad." Richard not only approved but decided to expand the project. The factory library became a community center, offering literacy classes, reading workshops, and family activities. 6 months after the wedding, Richard received a call that would change their lives once again. "Mr. Thompson, this is St. Joseph Orphanage. We have a situation we'd like to discuss with you and your wife." "What kind of situation?" "A 6-year-old girl arrived here 2 weeks ago. She won't speak to anyone, but yesterday we heard her whispering a name, Olivia." Richard's heart raced. "Do you think... Would it be possible for Mrs. Dorothy to come here? The girl might recognize her." Richard rushed to the factory to get Dorothy. "Dorothy, we need to go to St. Joseph Orphanage right away." "Why? Did something happen?" Richard told her about the call. Dorothy was speechless. "Richard, what if it's... Let's find out." At the orphanage, the director led them to a room where a little girl sat on a bed, hugging a stuffed bear. "Lily, these people came to meet you." The girl looked up, and upon seeing Dorothy, began to tremble. "Aunt Dorothy?" Dorothy fell to her knees. "Lily, my God, you've grown so much." The girl ran into Dorothy's arms. "I knew you'd find me. I knew it." "How did you end up here, sweetheart?" "The family who adopted me didn't like me. They brought me here and left. But I remembered your name. I kept saying Olivia because that's what you used to call me." Richard understood everything. Lily was Olivia to Dorothy. The affectionate nickname had become an identity. "Director, what's the adoption process? Are you interested?" "Absolutely." 3 months later, Lily, now officially Olivia, was home with her new family. Emily had gained a sister, Dorothy had reunited with the daughter of her heart, and Richard had completed their family. "Dad, now we're a big family," Emily said, playing with Olivia in the yard. "The best family in the world," Richard replied, hugging Dorothy. "Richard, do you think Olivia has adjusted well?" "Just look at her. She's radiant." Olivia, who had arrived traumatized and silent, now laughed, played, and called Dorothy Mom naturally. "Mom, can I help at the library tomorrow?" "Of course, sweetheart. You and Emily can help me with the younger children." The factory library had become a success. Illiterate employees learned to read, children discovered the joy of books, and families gathered for cultural activities. "Richard, do you know what I've been thinking?" "What?" "About writing our story, to show others that family is built with love, not just blood. That would be beautiful, and Olivia and Emily could help." "Mom, can I draw the illustrations?" asked Emily, who had overheard the conversation. "We can both draw," said Olivia. 2 years later, the book, A Family Built with Love, was published by a local press. The proceeds went to orphanages and literacy programs. The story of Richard, Dorothy, Emily, and Olivia spread through the city. Many families began adopting older children, inspired by their example. "Richard, do you regret anything?" "Not a thing. You changed our lives." We changed each other. Emily, now 10, had grown into a confident and studious girl. Olivia, 8, had overcome all her trauma and was a joyful, affectionate child. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Emily. If you hadn't come home early that day, none of this would have happened, right?" Richard thought about his daughter's question. "You know, Emily, I think fate found a way to bring us together. Your mom and Olivia needed a family, and we needed them. So it was a miracle, the greatest miracle of our lives." At the factory library, a sign at the entrance read, "Olivia Library, where stories come alive and families come together. Dorothy looked at that sign with pride every day. She had turned her pain into purpose, her love into action, her family into an example. "Mom, are you okay?" asked Olivia, taking her hand. "I'm perfect, my dear. Absolutely perfect." Richard watched from afar as his wife and daughters organized books and smiled together. He had learned that success wasn't measured only in money, but in moments like these. The textile company remained prosperous, but now it had a greater purpose: to support not just the Thompson family, but an entire community that had found growth and hope in the library. "Richard, do you think we've managed to change some lives?" "I'm certain of it, starting with our own." Dorothy smiled, hugging both daughters. "You know you're the loves of my life, right?" "We love you too, Mom," they replied in unison. And Richard realized he had found something far more valuable than all the business ventures in the world. He had found the true meaning of love and family. At the end of the day, the four of them sat in their home library, now much larger, for their daily reading session. "What story should we read today?" asked Dorothy. "How about our own story?" suggested Emily. "Our story is still being written," said Richard, holding his family close. "And it will always be a happy one," Olivia added. Dorothy looked around at the husband she loved, the daughters she considered her greatest treasures, the library filled with books that represented dreams fulfilled. She had started as a housekeeper, but had become so much more: a wife, a mother, an educator, proof that true love knows no social barriers or prejudice. Richard had learned that real wealth wasn't about money in the bank, but the people you love and who love you back. Emily and Olivia would grow up knowing that family is a choice, that love is action, and that the most important people in their lives were those who stayed when everything seemed difficult. And so, in the small library of a home in New York City, a family built with love wrote day after day the most beautiful story of all, the story of people who found each other when they needed it most and discovered that together they were much stronger and happier. The end. Now tell us what you thought of this story of love and perseverance. Have you ever experienced a situation where you realized family goes beyond blood ties? Leave a comment sharing your experience. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss other heartwarming stories that show how love can transform lives.